So every time I play a dredge adjacent deck list, I always am wondering to myself, is this going to be one of the broken ones? Or is this going to be the one where it doesn't quite work because too many cards have been banned already? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for a Pauper video. And today we're going to be putting creatures in our graveyard and then taking them out of our graveyard. Our goal in the early game is to cycle creatures like Generous and Troll of Khazad-dûm to both hit our land drops and fill our graveyard with creatures. Once we've done that, we can hardcast a Dredge Return to bring them out, or if we're a little bit later in the game and we have some ancillary creatures around, we can sacrifice those to Dredge Return as well. And we're going to use some number of dredge creatures, such as Stinkweed Imp, to help us fill our graveyard, and then some other creatures that mill some cards on ETB. And kind of the real sell for playing a graveyard-oriented deck like this one is going to be Lotleth Giant. When it ETBs, it deals 1 damage to target opponent for each creature card in your graveyard, which in theory could one-shot or close to it if the game has gone on late enough. So this is going to be a primo Dredge Return target, as it's both a big body and it comes with a lot of damage. So let's take a look at the whole deck now. So this is Achu's Dredge Return deck list, which I think is a legitimately cute name. It captures the dredge elements of Stinkweed Imp, as well as the dredge adjacent things that are going to be putting cards into our graveyards and sort of enabling our strategy to work. And it also gets the Dredge Return aspects in there. For those of you that played, what's this original Innistrad Limited, I think it was, with like the spider spawning archetype. Or no, this was Dark Ascension. It's been a hot minute. Regardless, there was a really fun limited deck during that time period where you kind of did self-mill shenanigans and then buried your opponent in copies of Gnaw to the Bone and Spider Spawning. And it was a lot of fun for the person playing it, of course. And we're going to have some other flashback elements. The squirrels can help us buy time versus aggressive creatures. I guess I'm struggling a little bit before playing the matches to conceptually understand, like, why do I want to play this deck versus other decks that also have a strong endgame? That's one thing that I'm looking to figure out over the course of this league. It may be that like you're pretty good at dealing early damage, so like one of these is game over. I goldfished a couple of hands, but without someone putting a clock on me, it's hard to evaluate some of these like Acorn Harvest, Gnaw to the Bone type cards without creatures attacking. You maybe can't get a Stinkweed Imp into the graveyard, which puts your opponent in sort of an awkward position. So I didn't really gain a lot by goldfishing a couple hands with this. So in practice today, I hope to learn, like, why would someone want to play this deck list? And I don't mean that in like the I think this deck is bad way. I mean this in a what's the appeal? What is this going to be really, really good against? That I want to know. And it may just be like, hey, if I hit all my land drops, I just make it to the end game and I just start casting 5/7 reach creatures. Good luck, Pauper. The sideboard is incredibly pointed. It just knows exactly what it's trying to do. We have a little bit of graveyard hate here, or a way to get multiple bodies. We have ways to destroy artifacts, ways to fog damage, and then ways to stop damage prevention for if we get paired against some sort of fog-style deck. Yeah, so with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into it. If you like what you see today and you want to buy some cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And if you find yourself in the Tennessee area, I will be hanging out at Game Night on March 15th for a Legacy FNM and March 16th for a CEDH event for a Time Twister. Let's battle. All right, I am in for my opening hand here. I have a way to start getting creatures in the graveyard as of turn 2. And that's really what I want. Stinkweed Imp is going to be a reasonable blocker in what I presume is a fairy / ninja style deck list. I am not the biggest Pauper player. I don't super keep up with the format, but I enjoyed the last set of games that I played. We'll see how badly we get bodied today. I think I am just kind of going through counter spells here. You know, like my opponent can counter my stuff or they cannot counter my stuff. I don't have a lot of short-term agency in what I can do. Let's maybe permanently pop this out while I'm playing this deck. I do have red to unearth this a little bit later. What's that? Yeah, sure, that's fine. My opponent's got land drop 3. This doesn't have evasion. Tap it. Deals damage equal to you to its power. Doesn't untap. Joke's on you. My creature has death touch. It deals damage to you and you die. Wait, that's not how that works. I'll take 2. This is fine. I think I am just playing a Mire Triton this turn. I think the Stinkweed Imp is going to be valuable enough as a blocker that I see if I can bait out an initial counterspell on this instead. Bait successful. I'm going to eat 3 more in combat here, which is not really a big deal. Okay, now we're starting to get somewhere. So I think I am interested in playing a Stinkweed Imp. If this gets countered, cool. I dredge it. If it doesn't get countered, I can use it to kill something over there. Nice. So my ultimate goal right now is to unearth this so that I can discard the Lotleth Giant and then Dredge Return it back to play. My opponent's 1/1 creatures aren't that strong right now, and my opponent has no source of card advantage currently, which is not where they want to be. I will absolutely dredge the shit out of this Stinkweed Imp. Ooh, there's a Dredge Return. I don't think I'm going to rush that. How many creatures? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, that's real good. Let's just take my time here. That's fine. You can counter my creature. That's just going to let me dredge again. And I can start doing some kind of disgusting things. I again want to get this Lotleth Giant into graveyard. I don't really think I'm in a hurry. This is 7. That's so much life. I'm just not great at multi-spelling right now, which is slightly awkward. I think I'm going to go to my opponent's upkeep and Gnaw to the Bone. Maybe I just set up the mutt now. Yeah, so let's unearth this. I'll discard the Lotleth Giant. I can draw a card. Getting a land would be cool. Let's just take a real draw. I don't know, maybe I just dredge and cast Gnaw to the Bone next turn. Nah, let's take a real draw. Okay. There's a Scrapwork Mutt. I will discard probably an Acorn Harvest to draw a card. I'll dredge this time. I've got haste. I'll bash in for 2. Opponent goes to 16. I'll now cast Dredge Return, targeting a Lotleth Giant. Sacrifice 1, 2, 3. 2 of those creatures are gone anyway. My opponent goes down to 10 and is in a relatively bad position. Now I will just kind of resolve 1 Gnaw to the Bone and effectively end the game. All right, my opponent leaves back a few blockers, kind of in respect of various things that can happen. I find a Troll. Sure, so I'm going to 3 mana Gnaw to the Bone, and then I will have 1 mana to cycle and do something else. I think I'm just going to get a tapped land here. Let's play this. Attack for the 6. There's a chump. I'll go to my opponent's turn and attempt to Gnaw to the Bone. That is a game-ending spell. It doesn't literally win me the game on the spot, but that is just too much for an aggro deck to come back from, especially since my opponent is just literally dead if I ever resolve a Dredge Return. And I have just so much value in my graveyard as of right now. So, send in for 6. Opponent will go ahead and block. Yeah, sure, that's fine. My opponent has some unknown cards still. Am I fine with this? I think I'm fine with this. Got another Lotleth Giant here. I will just put my opponent to the test. Like, counter this or die. Die. Die is the answer. Alright, I always forget what Decayed is. It can't block when it sacrifices. Get rid of it. Okay, got it. I don't know that I'm sideboarding. Moment's Peace is okay. Do I need Moment's Peace if I also have Gnaw to the Bone and my opponent is only attacking for small numbers at a time? I'm not really sure that I do. The Acorn Harvests I don't think are amazing here, but they're still fuel for Dredge Return. I think I'm just resubmitting the deck. One land does not do it for me here. I'm going to go ahead and just mulligan that one. This is fine. I think this one goes back. And we keep a couple of different ways to mill cards here. And hopefully just find a Stinkweed Imp. Alright, my opponent's got a 1/1. The game obviously becomes much harder if my opponent can get some source of card advantage into play and then just counter my stuff while drawing one card every turn. Like, that's their dream. So, do you have a ninja? Seems like yes. So my opponent now gets to draw one card per turn cycle. So when they untap next time, they are going to be in a very tempo positive situation. I probably just play the Death Toucher right now, while I know that that Death Toucher resolves. A Stinkweed Imp. Better lucky than good. Let's go. Third land drop into replaying the 1/1. Into Snap. Sure. This allows my opponent to hold up a counter spell for my turn for whatever I do end up playing. But the 2 damage that I take here isn't that big of a deal. So I'm going to dredge this Stinkweed Imp. Now there's all sorts of goodies hanging out in my graveyard. Got Dredge Returns in hand. I think I'm just casting the Stinkweed Imp. Like, if it's in play, I'm good with it. If it gets countered, I get to dredge again. This seems kind of frustrating for my opponent, honestly. What is this? Backup 1. Sure. Haven't seen that one before. Are you going to snap my creature out of the way? Okay, you're going to bind the monster. That's fine. Same overall effect. I take 4. Oh, I'm going to take more than that. Looks like my opponent is going to ninjutsu with this to put it back into hand to reuse its ability. Yeah, now there's 2 sources of card advantage here. And while I just absolutely buried my opponent when they didn't have a draw engine, now they have 6 cards. And it's a different story. All right, I wanted to hit a land. That's basically like hitting a land. I can do a tapped land here. I will play my Death Toucher and mill some cards. All right, that's a giant in graveyard, and I now have black for Dredge Return. But I have not forced my opponent to use counterspells yet, and they have 7 cards in hand, so you know. All right, my opponent's coming in. I will block the better of the Ninja of the Deep Hours. My opponent still gets to draw 1 card, and they're discarding. Shouldn't necessarily take that as a good thing, though. I think this turn is like play 2 of these cards rather than anything else. I think I need to shore up my defenses. This is a 2/2 that is going to mill 3 if I don't return the land. That's in theory fine. All right, there's a 2/2. I've got a Gnaw to the Bone in the graveyard. That is fantastic. I'm going to cast this one. I kind of expect this one to get countered. Yep. So my opponent can now use their little backup critter, whatever it was called, to mess with combat math and turn this into a 3/3 so that my 2/2 doesn't evenly trade with it. Of one mind. Got it. Draw 2. A Snap. Bouncing my creature, meaning combat is safe. I'm very behind. I don't really think I can win anymore. Like, I'm not literally dead or anything, but hard for me to have a super meaningful impact on the game from here. And I don't know that my spells are impactful enough that I can bait counter spells to make it so that Gnaw to the Bone resolves. Maybe I just have to, like, raw dog go in with Dredge Return and use that as the bait, because I don't think these get countered. And this can at least dodge a Sprite. So I think this is part of a 2-turn sequence to attempt to resolve Gnaw to the Bone and buy a bunch of time. Bad against actual counterspell. Force Spike, got it. Trying to get this. Another land drop and 4 more damage. Life's terrible. And a Relic of Progenitus. So if I cast the Gnaw to the Bone, they just pop it in response. Okay. I mean, I know when I've been beat. GG. I now know about Relic of Progenitus. I could try like some Ancient Grudge type stuff to mess with it. I think I'm just going to keep the deck as is. Like, I could move Moment's Peace. I don't know that my opponent does damage in big enough chunks where that's good. This is slightly awkward. I think I'm keeping this and just not cycling with Generous Ent on turn 1 awkwardly. Because Generous Ent can guarantee me black mana, but it can only do so off an ETB tapped land. I think I'm just playing this, and then we'll do Ent probably on turn 3, unless something drastically changes. Relic is rough this early. Alright. The only way out is through. Alright. I get a land. There's goodies in my graveyard that are relevant. I can start extracting value out of that pretty much immediately. Sure. I'm going to play a 2-mana this card. I'm going to play a 2-mana card this turn, and then probably play an ETB tapped land. I guess it's Satyr Wayfinder. I don't have black mana in play currently. All right, nice. There's a lot of goodies in the graveyard. Probably enough that, like, that's fine. I don't care about this body all that much right now. Anyway, probably not enough that the Relic of Progenitus is going to be damning this game. Unless my opponent cracks it. I think this game is just fully, does my opponent end up getting a ninja that lets them start drawing 2 every turn? If they don't, I'm fine. If they do, I'm in trouble. So if I want to double spell this turn, I can play Acorn Harvest from Graveyard and then Mire Triton. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So if I had tapped this differently, I could have unearthed this, discarded Dredge Return, and then immediately cast a Dredge Return. Or my opponent has priority to remove my graveyard. That's kind of neat. Play a Mire Triton, see what my opponent thinks of that. Good enough for a counterspell. And this now lets me know that my attack is safe. End of turn. So I'd like to exhaust my opponent's resources, which isn't happening right now. But I want to mess around. Like, I want to get them to a point where I think I have a window where I can resolve a large Dredge Return. I don't know that that's this turn. Like, I can attempt it. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think I'm into play tapped land. This will be my second black. I think I'm going to just take some value off of this card and unearth it. Or just discard the Gnaw to the Bone. Found a new Gnaw to the Bone. That's great. Well, let's attack with my 2-1 here. Hit my opponent for a bit. And I'm just going to keep putting points of power into play. Yeah, the hope is to take out counterspells, and we are accomplishing that. I lose this one. Oh yeah, this is all fine. I'll take some damage in the air. Opponent doesn't have ninjas. Like, I am whittling down their resources, and like this Gnaw to the Bone situation starts to become awkward for them, right? So I could unearth my Scrapwork Mutt. In response, cast Gnaw to the Bone. I don't know that I'm super excited about that. I might just be passing the turn and taking actions in my opponent's upkeep or end step or something. Yeah, I think that's fine. That's fine. This might be a good opportunity to cast this card. Okay, opponent just lets it resolve. And then chips away at my graveyard. Not that big of a deal. It's their third of one mind. That's pretty brutal. Sure. 3 in the air. Not that big of a deal. My opponent has 2 cards in hand plus 1 other random card draw available to them. I want this. Yeah, no, that's fine. Pick up a forest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Got it. I think I'm into this. Just unearth that card. I'm going to discard this Gnaw to the Bone that isn't particularly good right now. Mire Triton is great. Let's go land. This is 5 mana. Let's attempt to Dredge Return a relatively large creature. I am doing this for a 6/5 body more so than anything else. If my opponent trades the relic for it, cool. I still have Dredge Return. And now I have a Dredge Return in graveyard that my opponent has to respect for the rest of the game. And this is not the best to just snap out of play. All right, my opponent just takes the damage. I think I'm in this situation where, again, as long as my opponent doesn't get a draw 2 going, or a draw 1 going every turn, that I can grind through what they have going on. We'll take a few points of damage in the air. And I've got a pretty nasty attacker. That mutt's not bad either. I'm going to just start here with my attack with my 6/5. That's not unexpected. There's a few ways to sequence this turn. I think I'm interested in just getting some random stuff into graveyard and seeing what it is. Multiple Dredge Returns. That's legitimately interesting. But it makes the one in my hand a little more awkward. So I think I do this. Nice. Now I will Dredge Return, targeting a Lotleth Giant, sacrificing creature that can come back, and squirrel. Actually, no, I probably sacrifice squirrel. So now my opponent can counter this or crack relic. It is a counter. I will now cast a Stinkweed Imp. We'll see if that resolves. It's in play. I can attempt to Dredge Return again if I would like, targeting the Lotleth Giant. I think I just like having the 1/2 in play. I think I'm good. There's a snap. Again, these tempo-oriented cards don't matter until my opponent has consistent card advantage. The 3 copies of One Mind in the early game did a very good amount of the work getting them to this point. But I've got 10 power on board. I have slightly less power on board. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 is pretty good. I think I start by going to combat and attacking with these 2. Send them. All right, my opponent takes the damage. I go ahead and cast an Acorn Harvest. Now I will Dredge Return, choosing a Lotleth Giant. Sacrifice 1, 2, 3. This is bait. All right, so my opponent cracks this to draw a card. This is fine, because the card I wanted to resolve was Stinkweed Imp. Find the monster is annoying. Okay. This is going to be a very tight game, and is going to be dependent on what the top card of my deck is. My opponent can attack for 5. They don't. But they still have lethal in the air next turn. They don't anymore. So if I attack with both, my opponent has to block with one of these. It would probably block with this. And then I put my opponent to 2. Then I could 1, 2, 3, 4, Dredge Return the creature that is blocked, and then play Stinkweed Imp as well. So I'll send them. All right, it is the singular block. 2, 3, 4, 5 exactly. So Dredge Return, since this gains 2 life, is successful bait to resolve Stinkweed Imp afterwards. All right, gain 2. This keeps me alive for the next turn cycle. That's Dredge Return and Lotleth Giant as well. Cast Stinkweed Imp. Lotleth Giant will deal 1 to my opponent. Or no, it won't, because there will be more creatures in play. This is an embarrassing way to lose to a Force Spike. Does this game favor me if I wait? If I block this, I take 1, 2, 3 points of damage. I go to 4. My opponent is at 2. I don't think I take this risk. My opponent sent me a message saying how this was a really, really cool game. This is incredibly tight. I will take the block. That's fine. The Stinkweed Imp gets killed in combat. I am fine dredging it for my turn. The big blowout here is if my opponent's last card is another Relic of Progenitus, which it was not. So I'll do this. I'm going to go ahead and see if this resolves. It does. I think I go target Lotleth Giant, sacrifice 1, 2, 3, and this can always then come back with Unearth. All right, we get there. Maybe I could have gone for it last turn, but yeah, then they show me the island. But I didn't think I had to. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Okay, I have my second land here because Generous Ent can give me a basic forest, and then I have 4 different 2-drop plays that I can do to put stuff into graveyard, and I will presumably find something to do with that. Maybe we're playing a mirror. Land drop. I think I'm just going to do the one that mills the larger number here. Yeah, I will absolutely take the land to hand. No +1/+1 counter. But I've got goodies in my graveyard. Yeah, it does look like a mirror. So let's keep digging here. Ooh, I find a Stinkweed Imp. Let's just get the tapped land out of the way here. Yeah, that's fine. Send in for 1. I get to Stinkweed Imp and attempt maybe to Dredge Return a troll or something in this next turn cycle. Sure. All right, so we'll trade some little bodies in combat. Oh, there's a Dredge Return. Maybe I won't. Yeah, do I just want a troll? Yeah, I probably just want a troll. I guess I can play 2 Mire Tritons instead of 1 Stinkweed Imp, which is what I was planning on doing. Oh yeah, there's a Lotleth Giant instead. So second Mire Triton, Red Return, target Giant, sacrifice 1, 2, 3? 3? That deals 9 damage to my opponent's face. And I'm in a solid position. I don't have enough experience to know like how often I am supposed to just play the early game fully around Mire Triton by getting the evasive Troll of Khazad Doom. I have another Dredge Return in graveyard. There's a troll here. Yeah, I think I just attack with this, see if my opponent blocks. If they do block, cool. They don't block, cool. Send it. Okay, it is a chump. That's fine. I think I'm going to play a Stinkweed Imp. Oh, I don't have the land to do what I wanted to do. It's fine. I have Acorn Harvest as well. So flashback, Acorn Harvest, then Dredge Return, target the evasive troll, sacrifice 1, 2, and 3. And that still ends up being a really strong turn cycle. We'll see what my opponent's capable of doing. My graveyard's a little more stacked than theirs right now. It is a Dredge Return for a giant of their own. Yeah, I'll keep dredging. There's another Dredge Return. That means that blocking this in combat is now not the best. Yeah, we're going aggro here. I am very much the beatdown. So this is fine. My opponent goes to 4. And I just play another creature and Dredge Return this Lotleth Giant back now. So there's a creature. Yeah, and they see the writing on the wall. Yeah, I just got out ahead of my opponent here. So Rotting Reunion becomes a pretty reasonable trick here. I probably want those. Moment's Peace is not crazy. This game could get weird. We are a Gnaw to the Bone mirror. I'm not really sure what I cut. Mutt? Had mutts and couldn't use them last game. They didn't have the red. I don't know how critical this card is. It's a way to loop a creature into the appropriate zone for looting. Or for Dread Return purposes. This is a little awkward. I think I'm going to keep it. It's awkward because I am not guaranteed to be able to play a relevant turn 2 play if I have to just cycle Generous Ent. If I cycle Ent, I get, like, I can cycle Ents twice, and that's fine. What's going on? Opponent gets a Haunted Mire. Got it. Alright, so I will Forest Cycle, pick up a basic land that I can play this turn, and then I'm going to lazily Forest Cycle right now and pick up Black Source number 2. My opponent is ahead of me, both in terms of mana production and graveyard value. I think this is just going to be a matchup that, like, whoever comes out of the gates faster to start with is going to just be highly favored. I think I am interested in hitting more cards. Finding something like a Stinkweed Imp can be really important. I found a Dread Return, so I've got that going for me. I have a Troll in graveyard, I have an Acorn Harvest in hand, but, like, there's a known 1-mana combat trick that could get involved. I think I'm not trading this body right now. I have a Dread Return showing and my opponent doesn't. Alright, they Dread Return a Troll. Being on the play is good. So I need to make my own Troll and then start doing Gnaw to the Bone stuff. I could just play, like, 2 Mire Tritons this turn and just block the fucking Troll. Oh, it's got multiple Acorn Harvests and Dread Return over there. This one's probably going to end up being a slog. So let's not rush here. Let's settle in for a longer game. There's a Lotleth Giant. Let's do another one of these Mire Tritons. There's a Rotten Reunion. It's 2 mana to flashback. Does it benefit me to Dread Return right now? I don't think so. I think I can wait on that. My opponent is in a position where they might have to consider... I'm gonna just take this Troll out this way. I'm fine with doing this. Like, I lose these bodies, my opponent loses the Troll. If I force their Dread Return on Troll, like, I'm good with that. There's a Stinkweed Imp. Got it. And a Dread Return. That's fine. The scariest stuff is currently not in my opponent's graveyard. I can start doing Rotting Reunion. I'm kind of interested in taking out their Stinkweed Imp. So let's just do that. Not let my opponent dredge. And then continue to buff my own graveyard for things like Gnaw to the Bone in the not-too-distant future. I think I should not have played that land out immediately, in case this exact thing happens. I'm just going to take the Forest. And I'll call it a turn here. I don't care about taking a couple of Troll hits, because I have Gnaw to the Bone for a gajillion D as an option, and flash it back for double a gajillion D. That's fine. Ooh, they hit new Dread Returns, and they have Acorn Harvest, so that's not great. What are they paying life for? Oh, Acorn Harvest. I answered my own question. Yep. But they're not going for the Dread Return immediately. Go ahead and do a little Forest cycling here. Picking up untapped lands. And continuing on with my life. 10 creatures in graveyard for things like Dread Return and such. Let's go, yeah. Multiple Rotting Reunions. You can use those to take out Dread Returns. I can also just shift to the beatdown and return Lotleth Troll immediately. I need reps to know what how I am supposed to approach this. I think I'm going to just gain a whole bunch of life and not die, and then attempt a Dredge Return. Oh, I could have cycled to Troll. Rats. They had it. Alright, that's fine. I'm behind on board now. I bought a lot of time with Gnaw to the Bone, and I can get a bunch more. So this isn't super a problem. But my opponent can now like use their Rotting Reunion before I can. So they can chip away at my graveyard. What is this? A mill 4, sure. Or no, they're playing it as a 4/1 Death Toucher. Oh, cool. Got it. Let's dredge. So I've got Gnaw to the Bone here. I've got Rotting Reunion. I think I'm just kind of tactically trying to keep my own graveyard intact. All right, my opponent lets it go. I will now Rotting Reunion. Maybe your Acorn Harvest. That happens. We'll get a third Stinkweed Imp. And also just start gnawing. Gnaw is a billion life. Yeah, I think I'm just going to take the Gnaw to the Bone while I'm pretty sure that it's happening. Just go to 49, take some damage in the short term, and just try to draw or otherwise get a Lotleth Troll to finish off this game before my opponent finds a Gnaw to the Bone of their own. Seeing as I have a Dredge Return in graveyard, I think I just let this go. There's a Mutt. Oh, they've got a Giant. I have 5 more creatures in graveyard than them. Alright, there it is. I mean, it hurts. I draw Satyr Wayfinder. Let's start there. Wow, I miss. I put some goodies into the graveyard. Let's Rotting Reunion away the Dredge Return here. Not let that become a player. And I'll play a Stinkweed Imp that can block in combat. Now we're just waiting for a new troll. This is 15 creatures in graveyard, so a troll will just be lethal from full health, assuming that it does resolve. Alright, lots of stuff coming in. I've taken out 3 of my opponent's 4 copies of Dredge Return. I think I'm comfortable making this block. That would be my only really good block, I think. Alright, that's Rotting Reunion on my Dredge Return. It is perfectly reasonable. How many of my Dredge Returns are in exile? 1, 2 are in exile. Then I will go ahead and just dredge. That is a Lotleth Giant down there. I'm just going to cycle this. Get a Swamp. Play a Stinkweed. And I'm just going to play a Gnaw to the Bone for a billion life. That's good enough for me. I could have gotten a tapped land. Alright, the mud is being unearthed. Discarding a Giant? You're so close to hardcasting that. That seems good. Alright, so this decayed thing dies at the end of combat. Kind of want this to die. I could double block here. But then my opponent could just assign all the damage to this. So this is fine. Got it. That's fine. At this point, I kind of think my opponent has boarded out their life gain spell. That's annoying. That means hitting Dredge Return isn't that great anymore. I probably don't want to dredge, I just want to draw. This is fine, I'll make a bunch of squirrels. Yaw. And yaw. I have 2 Acorn Harvests in graveyard. Can I just give up the 6 life and make a billion creatures? I think I can. Yaw. Yaw. If I'm not going to Dredge Return anymore, these things can now attack. Yaw, 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 yaw. My opponent takes 6. I lose these zombies. I have a bunch of squirrels in play. I maybe am forcing my opponent on the defensive. That's fine. Yep. Yeah, I'm just going to take this hit for 6. And then just send a squirrel army after my opponent. That's fine. They still have 2 mana up for Rotten Reunion. I don't think I dredge. A Dredge Return. So I can force the issue here. I will Dredge Return targeting a Lotleth Giant. My opponent will remove that card. And they are now tapped out. Yep. Dredge Return is countered. I will Dredge Return, target another Lotleth Giant, sacrificing 3 creatures, and deal 19 to my opponent's face. Yeah, so let's go big screen for this one. I don't know whether I played this matchup wrong or my opponent played this matchup wrong. I don't have any perspective, right? Like, I've never played this mirror before. But they boarded out all of their life gain cards, and I kept them in. And because I kept my life gain cards in, I got to just ignore, I don't know, 80 damage that game or something absurd like that after flashing back a couple of Gnaw to the Bones. And they had that troll I play, I think, from turn 4, and it is now turn 11. I'm not saying that I did this right. Like, they have the gray slads, like maybe their build doesn't have them or something. But that's just on my mind. Fail from the future here. I've made the executive decision to cut the next round from this league. It's just not good content. My opponent is playing pretty badly and very slowly, and it is just terrible content. They narrowly win it before timing out with 11 seconds left on their clock, and I'm just going to keep this content flowing and not include half an hour of essentially dead air where I go, as they cast Ephemerates and basically time themselves out. All right. Let's hope for a faster round this time. Hey, Mountain. I like the sound of that. Yeah, what's this? Heroic stuff. Got it. I'm in. All right. Let's Wayfind. All right, so my Satyr Wayfinder sat on the stack for about a minute, so my desire for a faster round is maybe not happening. Second land drop into Kiln Fiend. Got it. So I don't have a great play for this turn cycle, unfortunately. So we'll get the tapped land out of the way, and I'll end up cycling a Generous Ent. Satyr Wayfinder just kind of missed stuff to bridge the middle of this game. All right, sure. I have to decide if I am willing to trade this for 4 life here. I think 4 life is fine. I maybe get a little bit more out of it later, but I think I need to absorb some damage while I can. Forest Cycle, end of turn. Not going to worry about... I guess I can pick up the red. The red is somewhat free, because I'm going to have turns in the middle where I can't really do things. Dredge Return's good. On an Ent is fine. This is just a decent body that comes with some food. And then I can make another one in the not too distant future. I'm going to take the hit from this and just block this Kiln Fiend. And if my opponent wants to spew spells, taking my Ent out of play, I will bring it back. And if they don't, I will just take this. Ooh, there's mutagenic growth, so there's a free one. That's fine. Like, I take a good chunk of damage here. This is why I didn't block this one. Oh, a Spirit Guide for Temur Battle Rage. Why did you not do this here, which just... I guess it works. Yeah, so I take 3 from that initial damage and then the other 11. Yeah, it's fine. All right, Moment's Peace seems actively good. Acorn Harvest seems slow here. It's good chump blockers. Maybe Lotleth Giant is slow. Weird as that is to say. The flashback for life on this is rough, and I don't have any interaction in the early game other than just straight up blocking these creatures. I get rid of 1 giant. So I have lands. I have a Gnaw to the Bone. I have a Wayfinder. This is fine. It is not the most exciting hand in the world, but I'll take it. That's fine. I didn't luck into an untapped land. I'm going to get my F6 value here. I'm going to grab an untapped land and play this. And then on my next turn, I have Mire Triton as a thing that I can do for a Death Toucher. That's pretty reasonable. Ent is fine. Let's go ahead and do the Death Toucher. I'll make a land drop and pass, and we'll see if we get run over in similar fashion as to last time. Sure. The answer is probably no, then. I think you push 1 there. I don't think I block for 1. I'm going to take untapped lands just in case my draw step changes and I want to do multiple spells. Acorn Harvest is a reasonable play. I think I am just going to make the multiple blockers here. I only have 2 creature cards in my graveyard right now. Sure, that's fine. Lava darts are going to be annoying. Takes my Death Toucher out of the equation. So, Lava Dart on flashback is a thing that exists. I think I'm just going to double block a Kiln Fiend anyway. And if my opponent wants to force the issue, they can force the issue. I think they just drop a Kiln Fiend, but I don't know the rest of their hand. They disagree. I'm down to 10. Not really getting what I need here. I think theoretically I need to mill more creatures to have a large Gnaw to the bone. All right, there's a few more. Yeah, so I can Gnaw to the bone for 15 life. That's probably my best line. And then I can Gnaw to the bone for a larger number than that the following turn. The primary question is just like, do I live through this turn? As of right now, I do. Doesn't trample, right? Yep, got it. I'll just take some damage. And hopefully not die to Bolt for getting greedy. And trying to get 2 more life off the first half of Gnaw to the bone. Yeah. Nice. Prowler. Prowler is actively good. Cycling a Troll is basically free. Just replaces itself here. I'm always going to want to play an untapped land, so I'm just going to play this now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be 7. Yeah, I will just take this. And then kind of same thing as last time. I can wait until end step to cast the Gnaw to the bone for a little bit more life. I'm at 14. I'm at 34. Fog is great. 10 creatures in graveyard. I'm just going to play it. I don't want to sit here and think about what is the exact math of the absolute best things that they can draw. I'm just going to take this. I think if I play this and attack with it twice, I just win. I think if I play that and then hold up Moment's Peace for the following 2 turns, I think it's just very hard for me to lose. I think I don't block. Sure. 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 I'm at 3. Is your last card Lightning Bolt? Because you're dead if it's not. 6 at your face. Dead. Yeah. I think my opponent could have done math there. And had, like, attack with 2, leave 1 Kiln Fiend back, block Apostle's Blessing, protect it, and then try to kill the following turn. Like, it wouldn't work because I have these things, but I think if you know a line you are taking leaves you deterministically dead, maybe don't take it. No changes. Land, Fog, a Dread Return. This is fine. It's not overly exciting, but I don't think it's worth mulliganing. Opponent is on 6. This. Oh. Cool. So the idea is you try to scam a win with like Teamer Battle Rage, like losing most of your life. Sure. Got it. I think I need to progress my game plan. Every turn that I don't hold up Moment's Peace has some degree of risk. I think I'm okay with this. Sure. I'll just take the 3, that's fine. I have a Dread Return and a Troll. I would like to put more creatures into my graveyard. I also have another Dread Return in hand that I can just cast next turn, as long as I hit a land drop. This can get me an untapped land, but then this land is always tapped. I don't know that I can not add to the board or avoid playing Moment's Peace in this turn cycle. I'm going to play the tapped land past the turn. And depending on how bad things get, I may or may not fog. I kind of like blocking here and potentially forcing some cards out of my opponent's hand. And then I just fog. Am I fine with this creature dying? I'm fine with this creature dying. That way I can cycle instead. Sure. End of turn, I will Swamp Cycle. I'll pick up an untapped land. Gnaw to the Bone is very good. I just like playing the Mutt and setting up for a bigger and bigger and bigger Gnaw to the Bone while holding up Moment's Peace. Is that better than playing the 6/5? I think so. Let's do this. I'll discard a Giant. Get another Mutt. I'm just going to hold up Moment's Peace. Yeah, that's fine. We'll see if they pump into this. They do. They get priority back. They pump. They get priority back. They pump. This is 11. And at this point, I fog. We deal a decent amount to my opponent. This is 3 to flashback, so I can use 2 mana for other stuff this turn. 6 creatures in graveyard. Let's go 1, 2. Discard an Acorn Harvest. Get an Ant. Have I played a land? I have played a land. Gaining 12 enough. I can do better. Like, I can let this Scrapwork Mutt die. It has Lava Dart that they can use. That hits there. You have Mutagenic Growth. And they're going in again. I fog. Yeah. There's multiple Dread Returns going on now. 7 cards in my graveyard. Can't quite play and kill in one turn. It's gonna take me 2. I can do something like Forest Cycle this, pick up an untapped land, play an untapped land, flashback an Acorn Harvest for good blockers. And I'm just going to cast this right now. Just make sure that something doesn't stop that. 8 cards in graveyard. Opponent is at 10. I'll just soak this up. And we're just going to ride out Gnaw to the Bone for just a touch longer. Oh, sure. Trample's good. Yep. Got it. 8 cards in graveyard. This could instantly become lethal? Yeah. I just want a 2/2. Or I guess it doesn't matter much. 1/1 versus 2/2. Alright, I'll grab this. So I can Dread Return targeting a Giant, and then Dread Return targeting a Giant. And this also constrains Immolating Soul Eater lines quite a bit. Like, this can't activate anymore. So now I get a chump block here, a regular full block here. And I beat everything except Teamer. Or no, I'm fine against Battle Rage, right? Yeah, that's fine. Can pump into that normally. Like, I'm planning on Dread returning it. That's that whole point. No need to dredge. Dread return, target a Giant. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And my opponent is dead. Alright, final round. I have lands and spells. Calney Garden. This is probably that, like, black-green gardens deck. I think it had, like, Monarch and Initiative-y stuff in it. I played it a long time ago. Oh, okay. Are we just going to load up on as many draw effects as possible? Like the draw 2 sacrifice things? Seems likely. Try to get a land. We succeed. I mill an Acorn Harvest. Alright, let's leave that popped out. What is this? Gain 2 life. Exile it. Put all commanders you own from the command zone and from your graveyard into your hand. Then shuffle your graveyard into your library. Oh, I see. So this is a repeatable first ability. Got it. Them only, right? Your graveyard. Got it. 2 mana. There's a Dread Return in there. That is fantastic. We'll go for a poke for 1. Which 2 mana draw 2 sacrifice a thing are you playing? It is Deadly Dispute. So in good news, my opponent's probably not too likely to interact with my stuff on the stack. 5 mana. Okay, it's an initiative creature. The good news is I have a Death Toucher. We'll cycle end of turn. I want an untapped black source for a Dread Return as quickly as possible. I think I am into producing the troll. so that I can pretty easily threaten initiative and call it there. I don't think I attack with this. I think I hold this to use defensively. It might not always work. Like, my opponent can have plenty of different removal spells in their deck. They're going for the Scry. All right, we've got Bread. It's been a little while. Gain 3 life? Yeah, okay. Campfire is weird. It may just be that this deck needs a little something else to get it out of the early game. Is this the new one? Okay, this is the one that draws 2 and makes a map token. All right, they are not offering their initiative creature in combat. Sure, so I have multiple Dread Returns that I can flashback, so that's a thing. So I believe that I am interested in Mutt, discard Giant, draw a card. I do hit a land drop. A 2 life for Acorn Harvest. Get a couple of creatures. I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and go to combat and see what happens. Like, send this in, send this in. Opponent just soaks up 2 points of life. That's fine. I'll grab a forest. So I think I'm going to Dread Return, targeting the giant, sacrificing creature, token. This can go in any order. So that's 5 damage directly to face. Opponent can gain some life with the campfire. They're still at 10. I will make a land drop and pass. I've got Gnaw to the Bone so that I myself don't die super easily. I have something that can block their creature if they try to take back the initiative. Otherwise, I get pretty good at spreading damage out. Sure. No, that's good. But, like, that does just put it back into graveyard for another Dread Return. So there's that. Crypt Rats. Crypt Rats are interesting. Can kill my smaller stuff and stop me from Dread Returning, but the life loss is real. My opponent's already at 10. And they're just going to blow it for 1 to take out 2 tokens, make Dread Return less likely. I miss Crypt Rats. Ooh. Use the treasure to do that immediately, or are you going to try to wait? They're going to try to wait. In which case, I think I don't cycle. Nice. So 6 total mana here. I can, like, gnaw in response to a Spellbomb cracking, if that's a thing that I want to do. Or I can just cast another troll. My opponent's not going to deal 13 to me in 1 turn, right? This is already lethal. My opponent has 5 swamps. If I forge it up, I get better against Defile still. So I will forge. And that also just sets me up for killing my opponent with Trap. Yeah, I just can't contemplate a world where my opponent deals me 13 in 1 go, so I'm just going to cast a troll. So, a little bit of a weird spot. I'm going to just block. I'm not sure if that's correct. But if I don't give them the initiative, they are dead to Trap. That's fine. So they're still dead to my creature. This is only 2 blockers. Can you produce a third? You can. Got it. So I can put my opponent in a really awkward position regarding their Spellbomb, and we'll see if they notice. I'll put a land into my hand. So now I can cast this Stinkweed Imp, and if they don't crack their Spellbomb in response, I could Lotleth Giant. I guess that doesn't matter, right? Because then they crack it in response to the troll trigger. Yeah, awkward. Destroy target non-legendary creature. That's real good here. Now I don't have the 3rd creature for Dread Return. I do have a flyer, though. So this flyer needs to be answered, or my opponent is dead to Trap. They get to look at a lot of cards off Throne of the Dead 3. They can get a Crypt Rats. Crypt Rats with +1/+1 counters on it is hot. They can pay 2 life and sweep the board of the small stuff. Oh yeah, this is cool. I like this. Okay. Yeah, this game 1 Spellbomb is a little rough. My opponent might, like, cracked Crypt Rats and then just sorcery speed junk my graveyard, which would leave me in a pretty bad spot, honestly. They don't know that I have double Gnaw to the Bone. They go to 1. I take 5. I've got Forge coming up, which is scary. They've got Campfire, which helps out a lot with this current Crypt Rats situation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can Gnaw to the bone twice. Stinkweed doesn't get me anywhere other than more life gain for Gnaw to the bone. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's enough. I unfortunately can't multi-spell here, and I think I have to give up my graveyard this turn cycle. I think my opponent just barely is going to squeak this one out. Yep. Yeah, forging up Crypt Rats is sweet too. So let's attempt to gain some life. My opponent will nuke Spellbomb. Then I'll gain 26 life in response. Like so. So that buys me a little time, but I can't quite flash this back. I'm 1 mana short. The creatures that I play with less than 4 toughness are not particularly strong right now. It's a troll. That's rough. I think my opponent's got this one. I'm not really willing to concede, though, because I can just rip a trolley boy. Or no, I can't anymore, right? Oh, this is big. We'll do that. Eat some food, too. Yeah, this Campfire Crypt Rats with counters on it combo is pretty brutal, though. Are they going to continue to forge up the Crypt Rats and just make it an increasingly harder to kill thing? No, they're going to go for the counters on the troll. That's fine. Tithing Blade to make me sack a creature is brutal. And they're the Monarch now. This is probably the point where this has tipped past the point of being winnable. Like, that puts me to 9. Yeah, I'm gonna concede. They've got it. Well played by my opponent. I'm not sure that I'm gonna sideboard. Like, I can Ancient Grudge things like Campfire, but I think it is better to just attempt to kill my opponent. I don't think Campfire plus Rats with counter happens that many times where I need to play around that specific scenario again, although it was sweet that it happened. I have no lands here. I'll mulligan this one. Yikes. I'm not going to keep this one. I will go to 5. It's a pretty weak 5-card hand. I'll be keeping it because I'm on 5 cards. One of these goes back. And then I think this land? I guess I could go this one, and then fetch out a red one later with the Ent. But I am definitely behind versus a control deck here. I'm down 2 cards, and my opening hand is not particularly strong. I think I'm going to go ahead and just convert that forest into a new card. Yeah, so I'm not putting real pressure on my opponent right now, which is a problem. Let's get the red mana, play the red mana, attack for 2, which isn't particularly strong. Oh, cool. Fine with that. Totally happy to just trade with a spell there. I'll end up cycling Ent end of turn and then starting to play copies of Acorn Harvest. I could Dredge Return. Ent is not my premier target in this matchup. Maybe this early in the game I just take it. I think I'm going to take a turn off to play around Edict effects better. Cool. No use of my opponent's mana during that turn cycle. Like, A-okay with that. And if they tap out for a 4-drop, I know that I can resolve something like a Dredge Return safely. Not this time. I think I'm just going to play more creatures here. I think I'm going to just kind of continue my resources and wait. Tapped land is fine. I'll play that. I think I need to use the Mutt yet. Let's just go ahead and do this. All right, got lots of goodies in the graveyard. We'll attempt to attack for 2. And then next turn, I can probably cast Dredge Return twice. Oh, my opponent's soaking up a single point of damage with the token. If they board wipe me, I'll shut up. Yeah, okay. And then they've got a land drop. Ooh, and another play. Fuck. Oh, that's so punishing. That's rough. Considering that my last card is Dredge Return. My draw is Gnaw to the Bone. Fuck me. Alright. I'm probably going to concede this one in short order. Like, if things go perfectly, I can bounce my way out of this. But it would need to be, like, hitting. Well, that's not perfect, but it's good. Stinkweed Imp can, like, turn on the Gnaw to the Bone and Dredge Returns. Okay. Do I want to Gnaw to the Bone for 6 life? Ooh, that's annoying. Seeing as I'm about to just lose that creature anyway, I think this is fine. Go to 26. I lose Stinkweed Imp. That card was pretty valuable. My opponent just draws. Ooh, it's Stinkweed Imp again. This Stinkweed Imp threatens to take the Monarch, and if my opponent kills it, I dredge it. You've got bread. What's the follow-up? Okay, it's just a Deadly Dispute. That's fine. 2 mana, cast down. That's an instant. That could have waited so that I can't dredge it. Spellbomb? Spellbomb. Fuck. Alright. Yeah, turns out when you draw a bunch of cards because you're the Monarch and the other person isn't, you can do some powerful BS. I approve. Alright, Mire Triton. Get my ass out of this. Find like Acorn Harvest. And Gnaw to the Bone for a couple life. Not what I'm looking for. Ooh, it's a big creature. More importantly, it's a big creature where my opponent kept up 5 mana. I don't get to choose. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to try to do better than this with Gnaw to the Bone. I'm not going to cast it right now for 4 life. Sure. So, I think I might have to take some desperation plays here. And this is not in the book of lines that you normally take. I think I need to try to mill some cards and get some real graveyard-oriented value. Stinkweed Imp is great. Let's play a tapped land and pass. I have 2 Dredge Returns in graveyard. I'm up to 3 creatures in graveyard. Okay, sure. Gonna chain them together. Sacrifice the map to draw 2 cards. That's cute. How many copies of those sorts of effects is my opponent playing? Are they playing like 12 now? Or do you just like play 8 and the map one is just better than the life gain one? Fucking no. God damn it. That's so many spell bombs. That's... Ugh. My opponent is ready for my bullshit. And I have a 5 power clock in play. And 6 cards in hand. This is like maybe the point where I can just go like, you know, this is enough. I'm going to take 1 draw step, and I think if I miss, I'm comfortable conceding. They've revealed a Deadly Dispute. Well, those are some bodies. Does sort of feel like I'm struggling in vain, though. Okay. Alright, I'm done. I tap out. GG's. I'll take the 3-2 here. That's fine. So how do we feel about this one? I'm going to give this one a thumbs up. I feel like this deck was relatively powerful and consistent. It felt like I have a lot of agency about when and how I choose to approach the game and when I turn the corner from kind of building up to going off. You can sometimes just steal games by reanimating a Troll of Khazad Doom, and I like what's going on here. I think there's going to be some matchups that are highly polarized, where you just don't make it out of the early game because your curve starts at 2 instead of starting at 0 or 1. But I think you're accepting that if you're choosing to sleeve up something that looks like this. I don't have enough reps to know whether or not like it is reasonable to slot some removal spells into the sideboard for certain matchups. Like, I just legitimately don't know without playing more games. But that's about the only thing that I felt like I did not have access to today. Yep, so thumbs up for this one. If you find you need some commons, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. And folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And don't get paired against Jeskai Control. See ya!